Stories shape how we see the world. Voice of Witness is an award-winning oral history nonprofit harnessing the transformative power of storytelling. We work with individuals and communities impacted by injustice, helping them document their lived experiences through oral history, telling their own stories in their own words. In an era of reductive sound bites, we need this kind of nuanced grassroots storytelling to create a more just future. Visit voiceofwitness.org/learn to get involved, check out our workshops, and download tools to support your own project. Join us in building a more connected world, one story at a time.
Hi, I'm Rashmi Sajani, founder of Girls Who Code. Look, I'd consider myself a pretty successful adult woman. I've written books, founded 2 successful nonprofits, and I'm raising 2 incredible kids. But here's the thing. I still wake up wondering, is this it? And if the best years are yet to come, when's that going to start? Join me on My So-Called Midlife, my new podcast with Lemonada Media, where we're building a playbook for navigating midlife, one episode at a time. Each week, I'll chat with extraordinary guests who've transformed their midlife crisis into opportunities for growth and newfound purpose. At some point, we all ask ourselves, is there more to life? I'm here to discover how to thrive in my second act, right alongside you. My So-Called Midlife is out now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Lemonada.
Hello and welcome to Good Things. I'm your host, Maya Rupert. Moms around the country struggle with similar issues. Things like affordable childcare, being able to stay home with a sick kid, financial stability. But oftentimes, mothers struggle in isolation, especially mothers of color who are impacted the most by policies in this country that are often racist, sexist, and outdated. Our guest today has been organizing moms of color to bring meaningful changes to the issues that impact them the most. Danielle Atkinson is the founding director of Mothering Justice. It's a Black woman-led grassroots advocacy organization that inspires moms of color to take action on U.S. policy change. It does this by centering the experience and expertise of mothers of color in the conversations and the solutions. Because Danielle knows that when moms have what they need to thrive, an entire family and community will thrive too. Danielle, welcome to Good Things.
Thanks so much for having me.
Truly, thank you for being here. I'm such a big fan of yours. I love your work. I love the work of Mothering Justice, and I'm so excited to be helping to get more people having the work that you all are doing on their radar. So you founded Mothering Justice in 2012.
Yeah.
Can you tell me just a little bit about the origin story of the organization? What was going on in your life at the time?
Yeah. So at the time, I was doing voter engagement, civic engagement, working on issue advocacy, which, I tell people I've had 2 jobs in my life. I worked at Disney and I've been a community organizer.
All right.
And so I was doing that and I got pregnant. I was interviewing for a job at the time. And, I knew that it was illegal to not hire somebody because they were pregnant, but who wants to hire somebody in that really ridiculous time in your life when you just find out you're pregnant for the first time? So I hid my pregnancy through the interview process, got the job, thought I was home free, and then just faced all of these issues. Childcare was crazy. I was like, oh my goodness, there's no way we can afford this.
Right.
I didn't have any paid leave because I was a contractor. And so as a community organizer, I looked around for organizations that were working on these issues. And when I did, I found organizations that just didn't reflect my lived experience. They were very white.
Right.
They were talking about things that just didn't resonate with me. And I was like, who's organizing us? And then it was like a trigger. It was almost like a light bulb. And it brought me back to all of those campaign meetings, all of those strategy meetings when we talk about women of color as a liability when talking about these issues. It's like, well, we could have a Black woman talk about this, or we could find a white suburban mom talk about paid leave. And we know it was shorthand for, are people really going to take this seriously if a Black woman is talking about her needs? So I decided to form an organization that lived into the power of women of color, power of caregivers, and the joy story that we had around this choice that we made, and also the hardships of living in Black and brown bodies while caregiving. And so that was the origin, got the smartest women I know together to talk about what that would look like. And then we came up with the Mama's Agenda.
Love this. So I wonder if you can talk a little bit more about this, because I've been in those exact meetings that you're talking about, where we're just trying to be effective. And so you want the most, quote unquote, effective storyteller, the most effective advocate. But I think for people who haven't been in some of those rooms, can you talk a little bit more about why is it that there are times that women of color, mothers of color, are not seen as maybe the most sympathetic or the most relatable when it comes to some of these issues?
Yeah, shorthand racism, longhand racism. So, it is this idea of you match racism with this idea of deservancy, right? Which is also a part of racism. And this idea that if you have a child, you should have already known how much childcare costs. You are probably a drain on society. You are just being irresponsible, and you should have already planned for your leave, or you should get a better job, which, anybody in that seat is like, how could I have known childcare would be this expensive? How could I have known that I got a good job? And was I supposed to plan for paid leave when I was applying for a job, or I took a job that is going to meet my needs at this moment, didn't know I was going to get pregnant in a year, So we have a system that is set up not for us, and then it is justified and continually made to seem that it's on our backs, that we're not being responsible. And so there's an internalized oppression that happens, right? So when it's those campaign meetings, those strategy meetings, we know that this is what people are thinking. We know that these are the ideas that they are holding. And so we think, oh, well, if we want these things to pass, we can't affirm people's stereotypes and beliefs about a certain group. So let's just put a different face on it.
Right. So I love the name of the organization because it's such an effective term, but I wonder if you can unpack for people what mothering justice is. I think a lot of times when we talk about these issues, we talk about reproductive rights or reproductive justice. But I think this is it's a very effective sort of container for a set of things. Can you unpack what mothering justice really is?
Yeah. It's this idea that the people closest to the issue understand it and deserve to be at the table when we're talking about the solution, right? And so moms, caregivers, we understand intimately what is wrong with the system. And we have the ability through our understanding and experience with being marginalized, how to fix it, right? Like everybody knows that mom who just made it happen. She had no resources, but she could just put it all together. That's the approach we need to these long-term systemic problems. We need the fixers. And the fixers are the caregivers who understand, okay, if I do this, if I have so-and-so help me here, then I can do this. And if I work this job for this amount of time, I can do this. Okay, those are the people that we ask. So why doesn't that work for you? Why are you working 3 jobs? They understand. And so it is mothering this problem of injustice and bringing a maternal lens to policymaking.
I love that. So then you empower moms of color to actually take action, to speak up on policies. Can you walk us through a little bit of how that happens? Do you maybe have a story or an anecdote where you've been able to bring somebody in who's really able to give voice to that experience?
Yeah, we do it programmatically, we do it systemically, but the thing that when you said, do I have an anecdote, I thought about a member who is now currently on staff leading our fellowship work. she tells me like, I just saw an organization where you were speaking at a mic, people were all speaking at mics with their baby on their hip, that we were breaking down this idea that your home life is your home life, your professional life is your professional life, that these are the people that make policy, these are the people that speak on issues, and that's what attracted her to the organization. But then when it comes to like programmatically and how we actually actualize this, we have community organizers that go out, talk to people, and our motto is systemic problems have collective solutions.
Yes.
So we do one-on-ones, right? And then we have these mama conversations where we have like 5 or more people in a room and we talk about a budget. We talk about a state budget, a federal budget, and we talk about what they value in their community. And we're like, do those two things align? Like, you value your park. How much money does your park get? And then we talk about the issues that they're dealing with. And they say, I just couldn't afford childcare, or, my mom has dementia and the bills are just racking up and we don't have enough care. And then other people are nodding and they're like, oh, wow, I'm not in it by myself. Right. And so people are like, okay, this is not just me. Then we move to really understanding the problem, understanding the systems. And those are through a number of fellowships where we're like, this is how the sausage is really made.
Right.
And these are the things that you never learned in school about how we can change them. And then we work as community organizers. So we've had success in Michigan on a variety of issues, but it really is about moms understanding that you are a vital part of changing a system that is supposed to serve you, but doesn't right now.
Right. So let's talk about what that needs to be.
Yeah.
What is the Mama's agenda? What's on it? How are y'all working toward it? And where are you sort of seeing some of these opportunities?
Yeah. So the Mama's agenda is what we created after a series of mama conversations. So a participatory process of moms telling us what are the issues affecting their financial stability.
Yes.
And we said financial stability because we believe that when moms are financially stable, not only is their community better, their family better, we are empowering them to be the advocates for all the other issues.
Right.
So education, climate change, all of those things. When we hit the last rung of the hierarchy ladder, people are able to do more things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. So that's the question we asked. And the answer we got was paid leave, both paid sick days and paid family medical leave, childcare, maternal and reproductive justice, wages, and basic needs, which is like that safety net of policies that help us when things are just not, the math is not mathing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a really important point to underscore. It's that the goal here is enough financial security on a daily basis so that it's not that it stops there with the economic piece. It's that that's what allows people to think about the broader agenda.
Exactly. And thrive and just dream. Right? Like that's the hope, is that I'm not struggling and I can be innovative and I can tackle big issues and I can conquer my future and my family's hopes and dreams with my imagination that I'm able to cultivate because I'm not worried about medicine or rent.
I love that you talk about innovation and imagination. Policymaking, especially for some reason, policymaking around families and security is so often based on this scarcity. We just need to keep people above what, right? It's our public housing is it's an anti-homelessness program.
Exactly.
Like, we don't go to the moment of abundance. How do we get people to thrive? And that's how we actually want to think about building for families, right?
Exactly. And that's how we grow our world, right? It's like what happens when you're all just trying to keep up on the hamster wheel? You're not able, I can't follow this analogy all the way through. I don't know what hamsters do after they get off the wheel, but like you're not able to get the cheese. I don't know, right?
Whatever else is happening in hamster world, you're not doing it.
Exactly. I often do that. I start analogies and I was like, nope, did not think about this at the beginning of the analogy. But yeah, it's just like, imagination, it's what art is. It's what culture is. It's the stuff that makes it worth living. And that's what we should be policy making for.
We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more on Good Things.
Interested in the power of first-person storytelling? The Voice of Witness book series documents the oral histories of people directly impacted by and fighting against injustice. Each collection supports historically excluded communities to tell their own stories in their own words. The books feature a diversity of voices, including those of refugees and immigrants, incarcerated people, communities displaced from public housing, farm workers, indigenous peoples, and more. These powerful stories highlight crucial issues and expose the impacts of harmful narratives and policies, laying the groundwork to build solidarity and movements for change. Voice of Witness books are read and used by thousands of educators, organizations, and advocates across the country each year. Visit voiceofwitness.org/read to learn more, access free resources, and get involved.
Want a sneak preview of hot new audiobooks? Then check out Your Next Listen, a new podcast from Lemonada Media and Simon & Schuster Audio. We've got everything: the hottest new thrillers, best-selling celebrity memoirs, and swoony romances. And these aren't tiny clips either. They're entire chapters you can listen to. Your Next Listen is out November 11th, wherever you get your podcasts.
You have had some big wins in some of these areas, right? Paid leave, licensure for midwives. Can you talk about some of those wins? And is there one that kind of stands out to you as either having a larger impact or just showing us what's possible when you're approaching things the way you're describing?
Yeah. So paid leave is probably the biggest win. Paid sick days in particular. Paid sick days is what you take for those short-term emergency things. You wake up with a cold, kid has the flu, somebody broke a leg, you've got to go to the doctors. And so that's just the ability to take off a few hours or a few days for emergency things and things that will keep you well. Our proposal is that you can accrue 1 hour for every 40 that you work, that you can bank for the times that you need it. And we've been working on that policy for a very long time. We've been fighting that for 8 years in Michigan, and we finally have a victory, was just announced. And so everybody in Michigan is eligible for that. And it is the first time in history that Michigan has a paid leave policy. So we're really excited about that win.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's huge and it's small at the same time, right? It's such a big policy win, but it's just like the ability to go to the doctor and not have to be like, oh, shoot, I'm going to have to find that $40 that I missed from that day of work.
Right.
And that could be the difference between an early cancer diagnosis and not. That could be the difference between sending a kid to school sick or being able to just be by their side and read them a story at home. And that's when policy makes a difference. That's when people have a belief that government is actually serving them, when they can feel it. But to answer your original question about something that gave us more hope and belief, and also just a belief that the way we do business is the right way. So there was a group in Michigan that was a breast milk supply company wanting to get human milk to make a product that would be good for NICU babies and compromised immune children. They came to Michigan, they came to Detroit specifically, and said, we will pay moms $1 for every ounce of milk that they are willing to sell. Now, let me tell you something about producing milk.
Yes.
It is a very hard thing to do.
Right.
And it's a very precious thing that you can give your babies. And unfortunately, in Detroit, we have some of the lowest breastfeeding rates in the country, along with one of the highest poverty rates in the country. So you combine desperation with a financial incentive. This really alarmed the breastfeeding and breast milk community because they're like, we are trying our best to get moms to adapt this practice that will be really great for their kids.
Yeah.
And so, they came to us and said, hey, this is crazy. We really don't think this is good for business. And we said, well, okay, what do you want to do? do you want them to offer more money? Do you want them to go away? What do you want?
Right.
Because you're the experts. And they went back and they thought about it and they said, we want them to go away. We don't think this could be helpful. We don't think offering more money is a good idea. And so we formed an accountability campaign that we got a whole bunch of signatures saying that this is really unethical for you to be doing it in this way, to be doing it in this place. And they went away. And so that was a victory for breastfeeding advocates. The reason why I love it, and it came to mind when you asked your question, was because the solution was with the people that do the work.
Right.
It wasn't us saying, well, they should be charging $20 an ounce.
Right.
It was the people that are working day in and day out who said thoughtfully, this is not going to work.
Right. Right. I love that. And I'm so grateful to it because so often we treat expertise as something that is gained through you go through institutions, you get a certain kind of education, and then you become experts. What you're describing is you deferred to people who are experts because of their experience.
Exactly.
And I also think that is really important because I don't know that there's another organization that could have done what you're doing because as organizing specifically mothers of color, I think there's an element of this that you all were able to bring that maybe couldn't have been brought elsewhere, right? And that is the history of going to Black and brown mothers and asking them to give a resource like this to other families and instead of to their own children, that there's something really powerful about essentially saying this is something valuable that you have a right to keep for your children.
Exactly, right. And that goes to the heart of just the problem that caregivers have and moms in particular is that we give and give and give. And I'm like, well, if somebody else needs it and I've got it,
right,
then I should give of myself, or I should justify why I need it, or money is maybe more important than give, and it's those things that they're so nuanced. And if you're not experiencing it, if you're not a person who has experienced, marginalization or oppression, you might have never thought of it.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about this election season, because obviously these are issues that we're going to have a chance to vote on in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Where are you all putting the most attention this election season?
So we are in several states. We have fellows all over the country, and we're letting people drive the agenda around how they want to do voter engagement. So a fellowship that we have, it's called our Mom of This Fellowship. Moms identify their own group of people to talk to, and then they talk to them about the issues that are important to themselves and the individuals that they're speaking to. And so, like, Maya, if I was a Mom of This and you were one of my people, I would call you and I'd be like, hey, what's an issue that's important to you? And you would say, elder care. And I'd be like, okay. And then Mothering Justice helps you understand elder care in a way that you can talk about elder care and why it's important, and tying that to specific races, right? So I can tell you, hey, we want to make sure that we have enforcement around elder abuse. That's the courts. We want to make sure that we have funding for care. That's the legislature. Hey, there is a proposal in our county where we can have a center that would offer elder care programs. That might be a millage or an initiative. So we leave it open. And the idea is that we know that trusted messengers are the best to talk to their friends and family about an election.
Yes.
And they've got to hit them where their values and priorities matter. So yes, we want to get everybody out to vote for the presidential, because that just changes the game around narrative, and so much happens there. But so much happens on a local level that people don't necessarily think about. So we've got to make those connections between everyone's lived experience and what's on the ballot.
Absolutely. Here at Good Things, we have been talking a lot about local and state elections and the impact they have. We got to talk to some folks from Sister District who focus on that so much. And I think it's such a good point, because so many times what you hear when people don't feel engaged as voters, they can't always connect what's happening to their everyday lives. But at the state and local level, the things that are touching on everyone's lives are the things that are up for vote. So being able to make that connection is huge.
Yep. Yeah, it is. And then to know that you can influence it so dramatically, like it might be really hard to get Uncle so-and-so to vote for the presidential candidate that you want to see win. But you can talk to them about a local race and they're like, I didn't even know who was running.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, this is the candidate that supports our issues. So it's so important in a time when, people talk about the disillusioned voter, the unengaged voter. It's the disappointed voter is the one that we need to be speaking to and help them understand that your voice is important. It does matter and we can change things.
Okay, hold tight, everyone. We're going to take one more quick break, and we'll be back with more good things.
Want more from your favorite Lemonada Media podcasts while supporting the shows that help make life suck less? Subscribe to Lemonada Premium today. As a subscriber, you'll unlock exclusive bonus content like never-before-heard interviews, behind-the-scenes moments, bonus episodes, and so much more. It's easy to sign up no matter what podcast app you use. On Apple, you can just click the Lemonada logo in the Apple Podcasts app and hit subscribe. For all other podcast apps, head to lemonada.supportingcast.fm to subscribe. That's lemonada.supportingcast.fm.
Hi, I'm Emily Deschanel.
And I'm Carla Gallo, and we're excited to tell you about Boneheads, our new Bones rewatch podcast.
I played Dr. Temperance Brennan.
And I played Daisy Wick, and we are going to watch from the very beginning.
We're going to watch the episodes. We're going to reminisce. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. We're going to tell behind-the-scenes stories.
We're going to go on tangents.
A lot of tangents.
So whether you're a seasoned Bones fanatic or a newcomer looking to dip your toes into the wild world of forensic anthropology, this show is for you.
Boneheads from Lemonada Media is out now wherever you get your podcasts.
We've had a lot of discussion this election cycle. I mean, more explicit than usual, I think, about family and specifically about motherhood.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of that conversation, we have watched motherhood get weaponized by people who aren't actually fighting for things that will make lives easier for mothers.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. And so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
How does Mothering Justice sort of think about that? How do you try to counter those, frankly, reductive messages about motherhood while at the same time talking about this in a more empowering and inclusive way?
Yeah. And again, the answer is with mothers of color, because it's with this idea of a larger community of people, which includes people that aren't mothers. So when somebody is saying, oh, cat ladies or whatever, I'm like, that cat lady kept my kid, That's my sister. I am in a network of people who care just as much about my child as I do. And I can't do anything without them. And if they're not financially stable, I'm not financially stable. So it's on deaf ears. It rings hollow when you hear a candidate speak about an individual who hasn't given birth not having a vested interest in society because I just called my godmother, and this person has been an essential part of my success since I was born. There's no air between me and her when we talk about what this society needs to be.
Right.
And you can't weaponize me against her. So I think that was a misstep, and it backfired because caregivers know how important it is to be in community.
Absolutely. So tell me about the ProCare platform. What does ProCare mean? And what is the ultimate goal by putting together this platform?
Yeah, so ProCare really came about because we're like, what would it be like to be in a society where we center care? Where instead of saying, we've got to meet the bottom line, that this business has to be successful and that's the only and first thing that matters, instead saying the people that drive the success of that company, centering them. And so what would it look like if we had candidates speaking in that way? We often in the care community have to answer for how is this going to help business?
Right.
And we want the business community to have to answer how is this going to benefit a family?
Right. So until candidates start actively identifying and saying, I'm a pro-care candidate, how do we start identifying them? What does a pro-care candidate look like, sound like? What are they talking about?
Exactly. A pro-care candidate has experience with multi-generational care. Wherever they fall in that, they understand it and they're bringing those values to their vote. A pro-care candidate is able to reject the premise when somebody says this is not going to be good for business, and able to articulate how it drives our entire community and society forward, and is not myopic in their understanding of economic and sustainability for a community and a society. They're not beholden to corporate interest. We're actively looking for those candidates. We think we found some good ones.
Awesome.
But again, it has to be a narrative shift and change where they understand that they can't win without being able to deliver for us.
Right, right. I love too that you talked about multi-generational care, because mothers are also daughters, are also, caregiving is huge, and it happens over so many years. And I think, I've heard a lot of people talking about it recently in response to the Harris Care Plan that she just put out, that actually specifically talked about the sandwich caregivers who are taking care of children and taking care of aging parents. I wonder, how did you all see that plan? Is that a step in the right direction? Are there things you would want to see added?
Yeah, that is exactly a step in the right direction. And it's something that we have not heard too much about. Like, we've had people talk about it in the past. I really am appreciative of Senator Warren. Those things come from their lived experience of taking care of mom while trying to figure out how to be successful in your own career, understanding that women are more likely to live in poverty in their retirement age and what that means, and the fear.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we appreciate people who know intimately the issue of, shoot, I'm not going to have any money in my retirement, and mom's not going to have any money in her retirement, and I'm the primary caregiver.
Yes.
Yeah, we need that fear in lawmakers. So we're just so happy that we are not just talking about childcare. We are talking about multi-generational caregiving and wealth and prosperity, because it is what so many of us are living with. And my sister and I, we often talk about this issue. My mother recently moved in with her. Thank God mom is great and able to handle all the things by herself. But we know there's going to be a day when we have to take over those things, right? And we know that later on in life is when you accrue like just so many costs.
Absolutely.
Associated with caregiving. We're like, okay, how much money does mom have? Okay. Right. How much money do you have?
Yes.
Those are the questions that we are faced with. And we are just hoping that policy matches the moment.
Absolutely. It really is. I'm one of those childless cat ladies that have gotten so much attention during the cycle. And one of the things I remember as I was younger and making the decision, that I didn't want to have children, the first thing anyone says to you is, well, what happens when you get older? Who's going to take care of you? How is that our policy solution for aging adults? Everyone has to have kids. Otherwise, we have no infrastructure to take care of people. That cannot be our plan.
That's not a plan.
That's not a plan at all.
Because sometimes kids suck.
Sometimes kids, they suck. Sometimes they are amazing and they don't have the money to support another adult who has health issues and all. I mean, just the idea that we have a quote unquote plan that just requires you to have someone who can take care of it. Or our affordable childcare plan is there someone in your family who can watch your kids? That's not a plan. That's a wish. Like, we've got to have systems.
My husband and I laughed and cried, right? So hard at this idea because, my husband and I, we have 6 children. My mother retired and then his parents are still working. And we're like, okay, so does 9 to 5 is the schedule, figure out how to work the remote? And then is lunchtime trying to figure figure out your Medicaid Part B plan. Like, what?
Right.
We love our parents. We love our parents, but they have a whole set of issues that they are dealing with. And it does not behoove us to have a plan that is so varied with who has access to a parent that has spare time. And also, it's not an education plan either. You know, we know that children, their development between the age of 0 to 3, that is when so many connections are made in their brain that enable them to learn later in life. We need a childcare system that will support their future educational opportunities and needs. And grandma ain't it.
Right. Okay. What can voters do in this election to support the Mama's agenda?
Yeah, make the issues crystal clear for your friends and family. Again, we have people talking about things that really don't matter, and that is benefiting some candidates more than others. Make it real for your friends and family, right? Ask them the question. Be an active listener. Be like, really, what are you voting about? Like, what do you want to see happen? And then going back, just do a quick internet search, right? Like, if somebody says that their issue is like wages, just be like, what is this candidate's opinion about minimum wage or higher wages? What is their plan? And then bring that back to that person and be like, hey, this is critical that we vote on facts and not hype, and help them understand that. Also be somebody who helps with the mechanics of voting. Can you take 3 people to the polls with you that might not go or they're like, I might vote, I might not. Be like, hey, how about we grab something to eat and then go vote together? Just ensuring that one more vote gets there and gets done.
Right.
Vote early. Help a sister out, right? Like, when you vote early, that's one less person that we need to call and talk to. So please, election day is the last day you can vote. Please go vote early, absentee, whatever your state allows will enable us to use our resources on fewer folks closer to the election.
Right. Truly, thank you. Thank you so much to Mothering Justice for the work that you're doing, but to you personally, Danielle, for the work that you are doing, for what you are caring, for the way that you are talking about the people and the communities that you're lifting up. I am so grateful to you always, and for this conversation today in particular. Thank you.
Listen, we are so proud of you. Like, you don't know, we are all like proud aunties when we like, look at Maya, look what she's doing. We are grateful to you. I am grateful to you. And thank you so much for taking the time for this.
Thank you. Stay informed and learn more about Mothering Justice, the Mama's Agenda, and all the good things they're doing at motheringjustice.org. While you're at it, share your story with a lawmaker, help support a mama, and don't forget to vote. Thank you for listening to Good Things. This episode is presented by Mothering Justice, a grassroots policy advocacy organization that provides mothers of color in America with the resources and tools to use their power to make equitable changes in policy. Learn more and get involved at motheringjustice.org. I'm your host, Maya Rupert. This episode is produced by Lisa Fu. Our supervising producer is Muna Danish. Mixing and sound design by Noah Smith. Steve Nelson is our SVP of Weekly Content. Executive producers are Stephanie Whittles-Wax and Jessica Cordova-Kramer. Help others find our show by leaving us a rating and writing a review. Thanks so much for listening. Follow Good Things wherever you get your podcasts and listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership.
Hi, everyone. Gloria Riviera here, and we are back for another season of No One is Coming to Save Us, a podcast about America's childcare crisis. This season, we're delving deep into 5 critical issues facing our country through the lens of childcare: poverty, mental health, housing, climate change, and the public school system. By exploring these connections, we aim to highlight that childcare is not an isolated issue, but one that influences all facets of American life. Season 4 of No One is Coming to Save Us is out now wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you looking for ways to make your everyday life happier, healthier, more productive, and more creative? I'm Gretchen Rubin, the #1 best-selling author of The Happiness Project, bringing you fresh insights and practical solutions in the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. My co-host and happiness guinea pig is my sister, Elizabeth Kraft.
That's me, Elizabeth Kraft, a TV writer and producer in Hollywood. Join us as we explore ideas and hacks about cultivating happiness and good habits.
Check out Happier with Gretchen Rubin from Lemonada Media.